Whoa, well, what an evening this has been in Southampton. I'm losing my voice, so I'm going to try and keep this brief, even though there's so much to talk about. Of course, Middlesbrough falling to a 2-1 defeat after extra time against Southampton here at St Mary's Stadium. It means that Middlesbrough's playoff hopes are over for now, at least. With Southampton progressing to Wembley Stadium to face Hull City, at least at the time of recording. Of course, this is all subject to the EFL investigation over Southampton and the Spygate scandal. Focusing on the match itself, it was a wonderful start for Middlesbrough. Riley McGree with a good goal, well taken. First half was excellent for Middlesbrough until that equaliser late on in the first period. Second half, Southampton came into it a little bit more, started to dominate. Their strength and depth kind of started to really show, and particularly going into extra time, it was really sort of attack versus defence, with Southampton dominating, and it always looked like they were the more likely to get the winning goal. But I personally felt that we were on track to get into the penalty shootout, where of course it will be an absolute lottery to see who would progress. But it wasn't to be, with that fortuitous goal for Southampton earning them a 2-1 victory. Of course, there was so much fire, so many talking points during that match, so much going on. It was, that first half was just absolutely frenetic, really. Of course, there was the Luke Ayling incident, reports that he'd been the subject of a discriminatory abuse from Harwood Bellis, from Taylor Harwood Bellis, in the first half, which left him absolutely raging. I've never seen Luke Ayling like that, so you could tell that he was clearly quite upset by what had happened. That then headed over to the touchline, the referee talking to Tonda Eckert and Kim Hellberg. Eckert's reaction completely ridiculous, leading to a dispute on the touchline with a real favourite moment of mine, with Kim Hellberg really giving him an absolute death stare as Eckert sat down in the dugout. There was a lot of fire going on that touchline there, just in front of where we were sitting in the other press area. Aidan Morris celebrating crunching tackles right in front of Tonda Eckert. Luke Ayling celebrating tackles as well right in front of him, giving him stick, getting right in his ear as well. So it was a really, really fiery game. I think half-time came at the right time, I guess, because it was really sort of looking like a game that wasn't going to end with both sides having 11 men on the pitch, not to mention two managers in the dugout. It was really threatening to boil over. Second half wasn't much better. A lot of, a couple of penalty appeals that Middlesbrough should have had, possibly one or two that Southampton should have had as well. I don't think the referee had a particularly good game. There was the ball boy incident as well, which was ridiculous as well, stopping Matt Targett and Aidan Morris getting the ball and then sitting on the ball. A lot of time wasting, and it was a night where Southampton, in my opinion, didn't really cover themselves in glory, throwing missiles at Middlesbrough's team bus. All the cheating on the pitch, Tonda Eckert's conduct, the ball boy, not to mention the fact that we are talking in the other context of the whole Spygate scandal as well. Middlesbrough clearly distraught at losing the game, as we said, unless a huge decision is made by the EFL. It does seem like it'll be Southampton going to Wembley, and the Middlesbrough season for the time being is over. Kim Hellberg came into his press conference and was a really emotional figure. He was holding back tears during that press conference, talking about how the Spygate scandal had left him feeling cheated, how as a coach he spends hours not with his family, researching games, watching games back, studying them, all to try and get that sort of tactical edge over his opponent. And then he's saying that when an opponent cheats, it leaves them heartbroken, were his words. He once again reiterated that it wasn't an issue that he had with Southampton's players or Southampton supporters, but then he was asked outright whether he was happy for, or whether he would congratulate Tonda Eckert and his backroom team for their victory this evening, and he said no comment, which was quite telling. I asked him then about the Middlesbrough supporters in attendance and if he had a message for them. Of course, 2,000 of them travelling to the South Coast on a Tuesday night, which is no mean feat whatsoever. And again, he got a little bit emotional. Again, I felt a little bit bad because I don't want to make Kim Hellberg cry. Yeah, again, just shows that he's a really good guy, and someone who clearly gets this club, gets the supporters, and you could just tell that he was absolutely gutted that he wasn't able to get this one over the line to get us to Wembley. based solely on footballing performances. So, of course, the next step is that we do have to wait for the results of this EFL investigation, or the independent investigation. The plan for Middlesbrough is that they would have been training over these next few days. Had we progressed, of course, they would have been preparing for the final. He said that he doesn't really have a plan at the moment for what he'll be doing in terms of whether Middlesbrough's players will be in training or what they'll be doing, because, of course, there is still an outside chance that it could be at Wembley if Southampton are expelled from the playoff competition. It would mean that Middlesbrough could potentially be given a bye into the playoff final, where they'd face Hull City. It does seem unlikely. Or maybe not unlikely, but I think based on how this evening, when you're watching Southampton celebrate, you're looking at how distraught Middlesbrough's players were, how visibly upset Kim Hellberg was during that press conference. You can see his bottom lip almost quivering. He was that upset. You could tell he was clearly very gutted. Tonda Eckert then came in afterwards. Again, very similar press conference to what we saw on Saturday. Answered a few more questions, to be fair to him, but then he did storm out again. Second time in 2 games that he stormed out of the press conference when Dom Shaw of the Northern Echo, good old Dom, asked the question quite simply, "Are you a cheat?" And Tonda Eckert got up and walked out, along with the press officer, who had the gall to say to Dom, "Show some respect," which is pretty rich considering what Southampton have allegedly done from a Spygate point of view, and hiding in the bushes and the costume change and all of that sort of thing. So another really, fiery, explosive night between Middlesbrough and Southampton. I never really had much of an opinion on Southampton previously. It's amazing how a sort of rivalry can form and how an opinion on a club can form, because tonight and the way that Southampton have gone on in the last week has been really poor. The way that a lot of supporters have gone on, not all of them, but some of them, has been really poor. And again, it's just been a really disappointing night for Middlesbrough, who did fall to a 2-1 defeat. As I said, as it stands, it means that Middlesbrough's season is over. But again, we wait on that EFL verdict, we wait on that investigation to see what will happen, and to see whether Southampton will be punished, whether they'll be kicked out of the playoffs. Middlesbrough pushing for a sporting sanction. They don't want a fine, they don't want a slap on the wrist like that. Middlesbrough want a sporting sanction. Had Middlesbrough progressed, it may well have been that Southampton would have been, or that Middlesbrough would have been happy for Southampton to be given a points deduction for next season. Given what's happened, given the fact that Middlesbrough have been the victim of what's gone on, this isn't, again, I've spoken about this before, this isn't a victimless crime. This isn't just about punishing Southampton. Middlesbrough are the victims of this. Kim Hellberg clearly feels very hard done by as to how this whole situation has played out. Football's a game of fine margins. You don't know what would have happened had they not been spying, allegedly. We can say allegedly. Kim Hellberg very adamant that it's definitely what happened. We have to say allegedly because at the moment they haven't been found guilty, but Kim Hellberg very adamant as to what happened, and that's why he's so distraught and angry and frustrated about the lack of respect that he's been shown, that the club's been shown, and ultimately what football's been shown, because Kim Hellberg, as we know if you've listened to any of his press conferences, he really is a footballing purist. He loves the game more than anything, and you can just tell that he's completely heartbroken, in his own words, by what's happened and the way that this season has come to an end. So of course we'll have more updates for you in the next couple of days. As soon as there's anything from the EFL or this investigation, we'll let you know here on Bonkers for Boro. But as it stands at the moment, Middlesbrough's season is over. Middlesbrough won't be heading to Wembley, and of course there'll be a lot of stuff to pick apart from this game and the season as well. But from my point of view, it's been an excellent season. I know there's things that fans will be frustrated about, being in the top 2 in the automatic promotion places. Of course, in these games, there's always things that you can improve on and that sort of thing. But I think it's been an excellent season, one that's been way above my expectations for what I thought Middlesbrough would achieve this season. I also think it's really important to say that it's been a great season in terms of getting fans back on board, because 12 months ago fans at the Riverside were hugely apathetic towards the team. There was no passion, there was no connection there, and as a result this season has been great from that point of view. I know that Rob Edwards in that whole situation was a bit of a car crash when it happened, but it certainly galvanised supporters. I think fans were really getting on board with Rob Edwards anyway. When he left, it really galvanised him, and then Kim Hellberg's taken that to a whole new level. So from my point of view, we're in a great spot under Kim Hellberg. Whatever happens this season, whether this is the season over or whether it's not, Middlesbrough will be in a great spot next season under Kim Hellberg. I think they'll be in for a really, really exciting season with Kim Hellberg in charge for his first full summer. His first full season as well. So of course we'll get stuck into all of that over the summer. I'll have all of the updates from the EFL investigation as well. If you have enjoyed this video as well, please do hit like, please do hit subscribe as well. I'm losing my voice, but I've still managed to talk for 10 minutes, and I'm very, very tired because it's nearly midnight. But I will catch up with you next time.